Hi, all. Welcome to Pump Up the Jam, where we give you the latest and greatest on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and everything American Riviera Orchard. Although today it's going to be all about Colombia.
They said it was a mission of compassion, a humanitarian visit meant to raise awareness and support. But what really went down during Harry and Meghan's Colombia trip has sparked a tidal wave of criticism.
Cristo, quite a bit, quite a bit of content. We have got how Colombia spent almost $2 million for security.
Yes.
Did you know that Meghan and Harry only allowed one reporter to go with them on this trip, and that one reporter scrubbed Meghan Markle's soap story from the recap she sent everybody? So we'll go into that.
Outfits. We've got to talk about outfits.
We'll talk about outfits. We'll talk about the BBC's response to Harry and Meghan, which was, the BBC was like, we're not going to deal with these two anymore. And why did Harry and Meghan only provide video that didn't include sound? So plenty of Harry and Meghan's content to recap around that Colombia tour.
And the overwhelming question, which we may as well answer the question, what is the meaning of life, Kinsey? Because that might be easier. Why? Why did they go? Why are they there? What were they actually doing there? And I don't know whether we will be able to answer that question. I'm not sure whether God himself knows the answer to that question. Do you know the answer to that question?
Well, I think it was a performative trip. So Meghan Markle was in her element as a Suits actress.
As a Suits actress, well, yes. And has she ever achieved such great heights as being her Suits actress? But yes, they took this quasi-royal tour to Colombia on the invitation of the Vice President of Colombia. They went there on this, what is being called this quasi-royal tour. They claimed it was to, shine a light on Colombian culture and to continue their work about cyberbullying and making sure that younger people are not in any way corrupted by the dark side of the internet. Now, Kinsey, I have to ask you this question because I know you've been reporting on this a lot. What is the connection between Colombia and young people going on the internet? Because Colombia has a lot of problems, has a lot of social problems, has a lot of problems around poverty. But what seems so bizarre is that Colombia doesn't seem to have anything to do with this cause that Harry and Meghan have taken up, does it?
I don't know what it's like in Colombia, but I do feel like having access to a smartphone, having access to a laptop, and having access to social media freely feels like a luxury. We know that there is a severe poverty problem over there. Locals are saying.
From the staged photo ops to what some are now calling poverty P*RN, was this trip pure self-indulgence with no real end goal? It didn't take long for the backlash to hit.
Great cause, but really not our priority. And I have to take what they say in it as the gospel because I don't know otherwise. So great cause, but I don't really know how it relates to Colombia. And good luck, guys.
It
I mean,
doesn't.
obviously, it was just a PR execution for not only this vice president who's getting accused of squandering public money on her vanity. One person said taxes were spent on rich white people for photo opportunities in social media. I think it was a way to shine a light on this vice president who probably has bigger ambitions.
I mean, you're quite right. You're talking about the councillor Andre Escobar. This is the councillor for the city of Cali, where Harry and Meghan ended their visit. The councillor said that basically we continue with an ancient practice, handing over our resources in exchange for smoke and mirrors. Billions could have been used to expand coverage of children's soup kitchens, pay salaries for community mothers, seed capital for Afro communities, or adapt sports venues that are practically in ruins. He also accused the Vice President, Mrs. Marquez, of wasting public money on her vanity and spending taxes, to allude to your comment, Kinsey, on rich white people for photo opportunities and social media. I mean, so going back to your point, I think you're absolutely right. If you are a poverty-stricken Colombian, if you're worrying about where the next meal is, if you're worrying about the socio-economic problems in Colombia, do you think online issues, online hatred is in any way on your radar whatsoever? Of course not. You're worrying about where your next meal is going to be coming from. You're worrying about the crime that might be taking place in the country. You're certainly not worrying about what people might be saying on Instagram or the dark corners of social media.
But did Harry and Meghan have to go totally, completely opposite? Because probably as a parent in Colombia, your real concern is ensuring that your child doesn't turn to drugs, whether it be selling drugs or using drugs or joining one of these gangs. I mean, maybe that is your real concern. So Harry and Meghan have to go completely opposite of that, or it brings up Prince Harry's past drug use, not just drug use, but drug endorsements. So I'm serious. I mean, maybe they had to go so off the charts to avoid that being brought up again, to avoid that. I mean, because this was all wildly choreographed. This was all bizarrely scripted. The BBC, in one of their articles, said this may be in part because much of this tour, including the events, were very private and controlled. These strict controls are often very typical of all royal tours. The couple and government only allowed their own videographers and photographers into most of the events, which they say was to make sure the events were represented accurately.
One headline read, "Compassion or campaigning?" Another asked, "Helping or hustling?" No donations tied directly to the visit, no policy shift, no partnerships. If this trip had no actionable end goal, then what was the point?
Footage was released daily with no sound. They took with them only one pool reporter from Harper's Bazaar who released daily updates to the media about what they were doing. And the BBC basically said, we're not comfortable with this. They chose not to rely on this material alone. They said, as we could not be present to verify what was being said and described, but we were able to attend the summit and watch some of the events from the sidelines. So not even BBC given access to this.
And you're quite right. The BBC, even if they don't have access themselves, they insist on there being two reliable sources if they're going to have video, if they're going to have anything else. But because there was only this one source, Harper's Bazaar, you're quite right. In a lot of their reporting, they wrote in their articles, BBC couldn't verify this, so have chosen not to report on this. You know, all of this, Kinsey, comes down to the issue with their role and what it is they actually are and what it is they want to achieve. They were invited by the Vice President. Now, if they were royal, then it would be a case of diplomacy. It would be a task, it would be a job, it would be an endeavour of diplomacy. And you wouldn't go, if you were a royal, to a country and start saying, well, look at these issues over here, look at this poverty, because it would be soft diplomacy. That's what the Queen was brilliant at, that's what the royals are brilliant at. However, that's not what Harry and Meghan are. Harry and Meghan are supposed to be these private philanthropic citizens that are going to shine a light on injustice around the world. Well, if that's what you're going to be, then you need to actually do that. You can't go along and have a jolly for pure PR reasons, because it just looks like self-indulgent nonsense, because you do not have a formal diplomatic role. So that, to me, is why this makes absolutely no sense. If you're royal, it makes sense. If you're not, I don't know why you're there.
Well, and if they're trying to make the appearance that they are still in the half in, half out space, which I think that is a little bit of it, that they know that the royal family, King Charles, Prince William, they're not taking their calls.
Was this about the people or about the publicity? Let me know what you think in the comments. Drop your thoughts below and don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video if you found it insightful. Until next time, stay sharp and stay skeptical.